Oh, thank you very much. I'm really happy to be here today and show you the bio-based heavy body new mediums and acrylics. So I'm going to probably just dive into it right away. I know some of you will be painting along and will be anxious to get going. I'll start with a little bit of color mixing, which will dive into creating the painting with that color mixing. Then we'll take a break and talk about some of the mediums and how I use those and how you can use those to create an unexpected textural surface on your canvas. And any questions? We'll cover those as we go. And hopefully, as we work through the workshop, I'll be able to give you lots of info. So I am a full-time artist, just recently full-time. Prior to this, it was my full-time side hustle. And I do lots of outdoor shows through the summer. I set up a tent, display my paintings. I have a number of shows that have been going on through the winter and into the summer. So lots of busy setups, and I'm loving being with Liquitex and able to show you about their products. Such an amazing company. So I'm going to change my camera. We're going to go to the overhead view, and I will, as if I end up talking, I'll switch back because it's probably easier to look at my face. So just a few quick things in case you're interested. Plaza Art, so just quickly, website and their Instagram, lots of great things on there. I love Instagram. Liquitex Official, if you're not following, also lots of great things. And for me, you can find me on Instagram at Art of Abstraction, because when I set it up years ago, I was doing primarily abstracts. So, but it's kind of stuck, and my website. Most current stuff that I'm working on, I'm featuring on my Instagram, so that's generally the best way to see what's going on with me. So I have a bit of an unusual painting style. We are going to be working on today. I'm just curious if I'm sure a number of you are going to be painting along, which is great. So we're going to be starting with a water-based scene, and my style is very scratchy. It's all about layering up colors, and we're going to start with a water-based. If we have time, we will go to a landscape-based, but basically similar principles. They're both waterscape, landscape, because we have a horizon line. And so we'll cover some sort of basic things, but the whole thing is really just layering up this canvas. And I'm going to be talking about all the bio materials as we go. I tend to use a lot of recycled type things as I work. But I just want to give you a little insight into what we're going to do here, because there's just a couple of key things that are worth focusing on if you're setting up your canvas. And I'm going to talk about the recycled canvas just in a moment. The basic thing we're going to want is a horizon line. And you can see here, I have my horizon line roughly 2/3 up. You can do 2/3 down, just don't do it in the middle. It becomes less interesting. So you want to make it as interesting as you can. So it doesn't really matter, top or bottom. If you want more sky, then you'll do it higher. I tend to like to feature more water. And then I just want to show you this. This is an interesting way to see, because we're basically going to be working dark to light and light to dark, and just working in the different textures. This really shows you kind of a reference point, the dark to light. You can specifically see it when you turn it into black and white. We'll work in a focal point, which is this lightness that we're seeing here with the white, and then just some scattered clouds. So in here, you can see there's a light focal point here in terms of the white and the brightness of the sky. So that's basically what we're going to do. We'll start with that. If we have time, we'll go to the landscape, but it's really more based on color mixing. So we'll just sort of see how things evolve. So just to speak a little bit about the bio paints, which I know you all want to hear about. Exciting new product from Call Art, Liquitex. Call Art is the parent company that owns Liquitex, and Call Art is a B Corp, what they call a B Corp rated company. And really, what that means is these sustainable practices are really part of the entire company, not just the products they're making. So we're going to be working with today the bio-based heavy acrylics. Some of you may have the samples already. So we're going to use 4 key colors, but I'm going to tell you about a few different ones. Again, you can use any blue will be fine. This is phthalo blue. And I'm just going to talk quickly about a couple things on the packaging, because I think that's very important to understand. All of the bio-based have a green marking on them here. The heavy based, again, the name, the size. What I really want to show you here is this part of the label. So there's a lot of interesting things on here. If you're not familiar, I'm going to talk about these as we go through the demo. The pigments, I'm going to show you a little bit about that. The transparency, we'll talk about the light fastness. The light fastness all goes through testing through the lab. So this is a premium product. All of the colors are a #1 excellent light fastness. If you have questions, this QR code on here is very good. You can scan that. It'll take you to the website. And then this percentages here in terms of the bio-based product, we'll talk about a little bit, and I'll do that as I'm starting to get out the paints. Every product that we're seeing is around 50% bio-based. And what that means is the product uses 50% organic-based materials. These are reusable type materials made from derivatives of, say, corn or algae, soya, sugarcane. So they're renewable things as opposed to non-renewable. So acrylic is made from acrylic. It's the acrylic polymer is basically a petroleum-based item. So so basically it's taking it from being 100% of a petroleum-based item to roughly 50%, depending on the color and the item. So the first color I'm pulling out is the phthalo blue. And you'll find we don't need a ton of this because it's phthalo blue is a very dense color, a very intense pigment, beautiful shade. It'll make beautiful water and sky, and which you'll see when we do the mixing. The next color we're going to use is the medium magenta. And this is a little tube from the sample kit. This is the regular 75 milliliter tube. This is an opaque color. One thing that I didn't mention regarding the labeling here. This part right here, this little square shows if it's solid, it's opaque. So I'm just going to go back to the phthalo blue because if you look at this one, the square is open, meaning it's transparent. And this, when you're layering up the colors, will make a difference. So I'm going to use the tube as opposed to the jar, just for the ease of putting out some of the product. And we're going to use yellow medium azo. And this as well, in terms of transparency, is a semi-opaque color. I'm going to show you just a quick little thing about transparency. You can do a chart yourself, which is kind of fun. All of this color mixing, I have to say, oops, I had a little bit of blue on my palette knife there. The color mixing is just fun fun. So I would say whenever you get any new colors, it's a great thing just to sit and mix colors so you can get an idea in terms of what you can really do with them. And I'm going to show you something quickly about a couple of things that I just spoke about. So one, the bio-based, so a great way to get going on this bio-based is to buy one of these little kits. And this kit is really our core mixing colors. It has these, the phthalo blue, the yellow. Instead of the medium magenta, it has in it the, sorry, quinacridone crimson. So also a great color for mixing. It's totally fine today. And really what we're doing, you can almost use any blue, any pink, any yellow. But I just want to show you something quickly. The color chart that I've done here, and this is where the color mixing is so much fun. So this initial one uses the phthalo blue, the quinacridone crimson, the yellow medium azo. And what I've done is just done variations of all of these colors using titanium white. So titanium white you have in your sample kit. This is an opaque color. You can see it there, opaque. I'm going to squeeze some of that out. And I did a comparison because I just want to talk very briefly about the transparent mixing white. So I took the 4 colors, just experimented with different amounts of the titanium white, did the same thing with the transparent mixing white. So the transparent mixing white keeps the color transparent. So I mentioned about the open box. So phthalo blue, it has the outline of a box, it's transparent. When we mix it with the transparent mixing white, the color remains transparent. So you put it over other colors, you're going to have the other colors show through. So where I layer a lot of paints in my paintings, sometimes I want it to show through and sometimes I don't. So I just wanted to call out the difference there. And then you can have just a ton of fun mixing. So this was the phthalo blue with the yellow azo. And you can see these beautiful shades of teals, and that will vary depending on the amount of each color you put in. The phthalo blue with the quinacridone crimson, beautiful shades of purple. Again, you can vary the shades. So I'm just going to jump ahead a little bit. We have the phthalo blue with the yellow azo, again, bright shades of green. But I just wanted to really show you these 3 colors. You can get so many different shades in here. I'm not going to do all of this today, although some of them may end up coming up on the palette just based on how we're mixing. But you can really do almost anything with those colors. Then the next I want to just show you quickly is that really the difference between what's in the kit and what's in our sample today. And really the mixing is about the same. Here's our medium magenta. This is the quinacridone crimson that's in the kit. The medium magenta is kind of interesting because it's actually made from quinacridone magenta and white. So it's really important to look at the labels and see. I just want to show you on so for example, here, the medium magenta. On here at the label, you can see the pigment. And it is PBI 22, which is the quinacridone magenta. And it's with PW6, which is white. So in actual fact, you can mix colors to get this. So a lot of colors you can mix yourself, but when you're using a lot of a certain color, it's better to buy the mixed color. So I hope I haven't digressed too much here. However, that's mixing color. So we're going to start doing some mixing right now. And then we'll start putting things onto our canvas. So I'll just talk a little bit about the Liquitex. These are the recycled canvas. There's lots of information on the label here. So recycled canvas, this is made from 3 recycled plastic water bottles. And it's kind of an interesting process. I was previously a sweater designer, and I worked for a company for a long time, and we made sweaters out of recycled yarn. So same process as what happens here. So basically the water bottles are kind of chopped up, and then they're taken into a process where it can the plastic is extruded out into filament, and they turn it into yarn or thread. And in this case, they use that to make a fabric that goes on the canvas. And um, so you have a recycled canvas, which is fantastic. I specifically left this in the plastic because I tend to like to use, and I think a lot of artists are like this, we like to use up things and keep them where we may use them later. So I'm going to use this plastic later today, and we can look at that. I tend to, this is some plastic that I use in some of my other paintings. I will use plastic to move color around in the painting, but I keep the plastic because I like to use these colors. If I use matte medium and things, it will come off in my paintings, which creates really interesting effect. The paper, we can also use to make our straight line for our horizon. If we're doing a landscape and we want a less straight line, we can keep this and use this horn edge as a reference point for our horizon. So I'm going to show you that a little bit later. So we have a canvas. So any questions so far? Do we?
Yeah, actually, Jean is asking, can the bio-based paints be mixed with fully acrylic-based paints? Do they play well together?
Yes, so absolutely. And I have a few other things which I can show you. So they can be used with your current acrylic paints, whether it's a Liquitex brand or another brand, they're completely compatible. Colart and Liquitex, one of the amazing things they do is they have a fabulous lab for continuous testing on products to ensure that things are the best quality they are. So 100% they can be used with other acrylics. And the other thing that you need to know, the colors and everything are have been formulated, so they should be almost identical. So I will just pull out quickly, and I'm going to show you on a piece of paper here before we start on the canvas. This is the bio heavy based in the phthalo blue. So I have the soft body here in the phthalo blue. I'm just going to put out a little bit of that on my palette. And I'm just going to, and I also have the heavy body as well. So I'm going to start with these two. So I'm just going to take the palette knife just so you can get an idea. So this, and hopefully you can see this okay. So beautiful consistency in terms of the bio. So the bio heavy acrylic, which they're calling it. And I'll show you with this the consistency. So I'm going to try and put enough on here so you can see color just using my palette knife, because I'm going to show you all 3 colors. So I'm just wiping off my palette knife here, and I'm going to go to the soft body. I have to always make sure that I'm calling things exactly as they're because I tend to not necessarily do that. So that's why I might be a little bit slow in terms of saying the name. So you can see the color is almost identical there. And then I'm just going to pull out the I have it's the heavy body here. So, and just for reference, I don't think I called it out. This is the phthalo blue green shade. So I'm going to put in the heavy body down here. then we can look at that. I think you can see it on the palette. It's pretty consistently the same color. So the consistency of the heavy body, and I can show you this again, the heavy body and the bio heavy acrylic is similar, but not the same. But so for the color, so I think they're all very consistent in terms of color. So we have the bio heavy acrylic, we have the soft body, and then we have the regular heavy body. So I'm just going to put that aside. Then we're going to dive into a little bit of color mixing. I'll come back to that paper if we need to. So I've got my palette out here, or sorry, my canvas. And out of the great recycled fabric, it feels great. It responds like any other canvas. We have this thickness, the thinner, as well as the thicker 1.5 inch canvas. So lots of options there. I'm going to start. I'm going to take, just to give us sort of a dark horizon line, but I'm big on not really worrying about what goes into the background of the painting, because there's so many layers that go on this that you'll find that you can just keep adding to it. And the beauty, of course, of acrylics, it can dry and you can go over. Just to give you a rough idea. So I am just pulling something out here. It's a bigger canvas, but this is, just sort of a rough, and it looks like real scratchy mess. But if I have leftover paint, I will put it on here. Because of all of the layers of color, eventually it will clean up and you'll get a beautiful, beautiful water scene. So I'm big on not using, sorry, and I have to make sure that I don't want to use this. I want to use this. I'm big on using up every bit of product, and I'm going to dip my brush. So I'm using the Liquitex freestyle brush. This is part of a kit. It's the filbert tip. You can use basically any brush you're comfortable with. I'm just going to create, I've got a ruler out here, and I'm just going to create a horizon line. And this is really just to give myself something to refer to as we're layering up the colors. So I've just used my ruler here. I'll wipe it off. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. You can use any straight edge, as I mentioned. If you can use a piece of paper, a piece of cardboard, whatever, it doesn't matter. So you could use the edge of this, which I probably should have used. Just using the recycled aspect of everything. So basically, I'm going to start mixing. I want to go sort of light into dark, and I want to, just create some different colors and, different textures. So I'll use the palette knife, the brush, the side of the brush. And to me, it's just about lots of different kind of textures, shapes. I'm not necessarily about using a brush and fine detail work. So, okay, we've talked about the bio base, the comparison in terms of the other colors. We're just going to do a little bit of mixing here. I'm just going to do a little bit sort of a medium color in here that we can start layering onto the canvas. Any other questions in the chat we want to try and address as I'm doing this?
No,
No, okay.
all good.
We'll just keep going. Okay, so I'm mixing the phthalo blue with the titanium white, and I've got just sort of a medium color blue in here. One thing I like to do is I like to wet my canvas a little bit before I start. And it just, for me, it just allows the paint to move a little bit. So I'm just going to talk about that very briefly. And I'm going to talk about the mediums. So in my work, I use a lot of matte medium. So we're going to talk about the mediums once we kind of get through the basic layer of this canvas. But I just want to tell you briefly now because of the water that I'm going to use. So this is the bio-based matte medium. We have the regular matte medium. If you use this, you can easily transition into this. Make sure you use up this. That's the whole thing. You want to make sure that you're environmental and use up everything that you have. So if you want to transition into this, it has a very similar feel. I won't show you now, but it does have very similar feel to the regular bio base. We'll get into the matte medium a little bit later. But what I wanted to talk about, I like to use a little bit of water on my canvas. So I always have, you know, different spray bottles here. But we have to be conscious of our paintings and ensuring that that we don't put too much water in. So I like to mix. I just have a random spray bottle here. I mix the matte medium with roughly 25% water. So the recommended is not more than 25% water. Because the acrylic paint is actually a binder, a pigment, and water. And if we put too much water in, then there isn't enough. The binder and the pigment become too far apart, so you can actually wipe them. You'll notice if you use a lot of water, you can actually wipe off the canvas a little bit. So anyways, 25% water. I spray my canvas a little bit with that. It'll just make it a little bit wet. You don't need to do this. But again, it's experimentation. So I like to say, experiment. If you have, you should have, I guess, a little bit of water with you. You can just dip a paper towel in the water and just make the canvas a little bit damp. Best practices, I'm using my matte medium mixed with water. So just gives a little bit of a slightly wet surface to take the paint. So I'm just going to start. I'm going to use the palette knife, but I really want to show. So I'm using the edge of the palette knife and just kind of scraping this across the canvas. And I'm just doing some initial layers. Feels that my palette knife has a little bit of pink on it, and that's okay because I like to have lots of different colors over here. So basically, this is a mid-tone, so we want to try, it can be the bottom and the middle, not too much at the top, but we're going to go through and we're going to layer up a lot, so I wouldn't worry too much about that. And we can put a little bit in the sky as well. I'm just going to scrape some through the sky. And we're going to create lots of layers. So you can clean off your palette knife. I'm going to try and take most of it onto this palette paper here, and I'm going to show you why later, because there's something fun that I like to do with kind of recycled palette paper and the paint that's on the palette paper. So you just stay tuned. You'll have you'll have some fun details about that. So I'm going to, this is where you're just going to play. So I'm going to mix a little bit of the medium magenta, and I'm going to mix it in with what I already have mixed here. And this is, it's playing. It's all just about playing. So see, we're getting a beautiful, beautiful kind of light purpley color. And the point is to get lots of different variations of color. So I have this on my palette knife. So again, I'm gonna, find some spots and random. So I would say you don't necessarily want to scrape it all the way across. You want to maybe go part way across. And then find another spot and go part way across. And the idea is that this is going to show through as we apply more layers of color. And this is, a lot of this is all experimentation and just having fun. And the other thing I really want to say is, don't worry if this doesn't turn out exactly the way you want it, because two things. It's acrylic, you can paint over it, and you can start again. And I'm a big believer, the best paintings come from paint over paintings. So, because you have these interesting textures and colors show through. So I'm just going to take a little bit more of the titanium white. I'm going to mix it in here. Again, just experimenting a little bit to get a little bit of some lighter tones. And I'm just going to take these into the what I've already laid down here. And I just want to put a little bit in the sky. Got a lot there. That's okay. So, and remembering we want more dark towards the top, more dark towards the bottom, and then we're going to work in a lot of lightness, the bottom here, and then we'll work in some clouds. So all about just kind of mixing. I'm going to take a little bit more of our medium magenta, and I still have a fair bit of blue, so we're coming a little bit more on the purple side. I'm going to take a little bit more of the titanium white. And the other thing that's kind of fun, if you can see as you mix, I'm just going to hold this up a little bit. We have some shades of color happening here. So it is also fun when you take the palette knife and you have all of these colors on here. I'm picking it up. And when you put this on the canvas and you pull it across, it also gives you an interesting variety of colors because you get the pinks and the blues all mixed together. I love it when everything's all mixed together and you get this. So when I do a lot of really big pieces, and when I work, I tend to work, maybe an hour at a time, and I'll walk away and I'll let it dry, and then I come back and add more layers. We don't have the beauty to do that today, but I want to just give you the framework so that ultimately you'll end up with something that has that landscapey or waterscape feel to it. But know that you can go back to this piece. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can go back and fine tune it. The other thing to know is you don't necessarily have to always work on canvas. So you can work on, let me just see, I think I have an example here I can show you. You can work on canvas paper or a paper that's set up to have the kind of feeling of canvas. And there's also canvas paper. But here's another one that I did just on paper. And oops, turned around here. So you can see roughly the horizon line here. And again, this is just experimenting with color. I would go back in and start fine tuning this a little bit because again, it's layers and layers of color. But I just want to show you, it's all about experimenting and playing and just having fun. And don't be concerned that you have to have a perfect painting every time around. And you paint something and you go over it, gesso it again, and the illusion of what you painted before comes through, and then you add more layers and it becomes really interesting. So I'm putting down some more titanium white. I just want to add a little bit more white. I'm just going to clean off my my palette knife here. I will show you, I tend to work with a lot of different things. So I'll go back to the brush quickly and show you. Again, I had mentioned I'm not a detail painter. So I will try and give the illusion of something, but I'm not big about specific details. Often I will use the side of the brush. So here I just went into the titanium white using the side of the brush. And this, as well as you scrape this across the painting, gives an interesting effect. So I'm putting a little bit more in the top. So you can see the colors blending together a little bit here. So again, I just wanted to stress again, the titanium white is an opaque color. So you can go in with the titanium white, and you can cover up anything. Everything here is still a little bit wet. And that is because of the water that I put on the canvas. So if I'd started completely dry, I'm just going to point out down here, there's a lot of color that's been picked up in little dots. That's from the texture of the canvas. Where I have more fluid still on the canvas, the colors are blending a little bit. And I like to see that combination of blending. So it's also good to try and paint down the side of the canvas. So if you're using the gallery depth canvas, you want to try and paint the sides at the same time. I like to have that painting continue around the side of the painting as opposed to framing. So I'm going to go back to the palette knife. You can use lots of different, I need a little bit more of this phthalo blue. Lots of different tools to create mark making. And that also creates a lot of interest in the painting. So going back, I want to use a little bit of just the straight phthalo blue because I want to get some dark color happening in the bottom here. So I'll go over some of these spots here. And just, you can see, I don't necessarily want all of these lighter colors to show through. I want to get some of the underlayers to show through, which creates some real interest. So I'm just putting a little bit of the darker color up here, but not too much because we want to have most of the darker color down here. And I'm going to continue to do some blending in here. So I want to show you one other thing quickly. When you do this, sometimes you end up with a bunch of white spots, and that's okay. I'm just going to pull out a little bit of the matte medium because I just want to show you a fun thing. The matte medium, I'm just such a big believer in this. I use this in like all my paintings and I go through so much of it. But what I want to show you is how great this is as an extender, I'll call it, for the paint. And you can also use it to glaze. So I have my water here. I'm just going to rinse out that a little bit. I'm going to take just a little bit on the brush of the phthalo blue, and I'm going to mix it in with the medium. So I'm trying to give you options that you can do. And really the idea is that you take home the ideas and you experiment and try yourself on different things. And when I show you how I do that, my textural background, I think you'll find this really interesting as well. But I took just a tiny dab of phthalo blue, and you can go in to some of these white areas and fill in with your brush with the phthalo blue. And again, I'm not going in and covering everything because I want to have lots of different colors show through. So I'm filling in some of these white spots. I'm going to go into the bottom here and try and fill in. I just put a little bit more of the matte medium on the brush, and you can see, I'm just going to show you. If you put a lot more, it does become quite thin. And it's very translucent. So I had mentioned earlier about the phthalo blue, and just to show you again, the little square on the side, which means that it is transparent. So when you put that with the matte medium, it becomes really transparent. Phthalo blue is also, it's a very intense pigment, and it's great for just staining things. So I'm going to put a little bit more at the top up here because I just want that to show through as I put some more titanium white on for the clouds. So I'm just going to fill in here a little bit more. And we'll probably do the same thing. I'm going to add a little bit more of the pink in. Now, this is where color mixing becomes kind of fun. So I'm just gonna show you something else here. So by just putting a tiny little bit of yellow in, we can change our phthalo blue to be a little bit more on the teal side. And you can just leave it tones of phthalo blue and pink with the titanium white if you just want to have these gradations of blues and purples. But if you want to change up the color of the blue, just a smidge, I'm going to take a little bit here and move it down here on the palette. Let me move my palette up here so you can see. And I'm just going to take a tiny bit of the medium azo and just a very, very tiny bit. Okay, so it's changed the color of here, let me show you on this pad. So the phthalo blue, it hasn't changed a lot, but I'm not sure if you can even see it so much. It's changed it so it's a little bit on the turquoise side. I'm just going to mix in a tiny little bit of titanium white and you'll see it a little bit more, I think. So I'm just doing that because, again, I want to create some variety in the water. So I think you can see how just adding that tiny little bit of yellow just made it a little bit more deeper blue and on the teal side. So I'm big on a variety of colors, which you're going to do through your experimentation of the color mixing. And just to stress again, the hundreds of different colors that you can make. And you're going to do variety in this through your tools that you use for the mark making and the color. So color, mark making, you can't see that much of a difference here with that, but I'm just going to put a little bit of the titanium white in, and we'll put a little bit more of the yellow in. I just want it to go more on the teal side, which I think we're seeing a little bit now. Yeah, you can see it more now. I think you can see that. So I'm scratching this through and just in little bits. I ended up with a sharp line there. You want to try and avoid any of those. Put a little bit up here. So again, that just created a little bit more interest and depth to the water. So you
We do
can,
have a couple questions,
yeah,
Kareen.
okay, great.
Yeah, cool. So Joyce is asking, how would you know when and where to stop the painting?
Sorry, to stop the painting?
Like how do you know when you're done?
Oh, that's a good question. Oh my goodness, how do you know that? That's tricky. Okay, so you have to just kind of go with your gut. But don't worry, because just paint another one. If you end up painting it too much, then just paint another one, because it's all about painting and just having fun. And that's you don't have to worry about making a perfect painting every time. So I would say go with your gut if you think you're done. So right now, just to give you an idea, I'm looking at this. I don't feel I'm done, and I'll tell you why. So I need to even off this a little bit more. I want to fill in a little bit more of this white that's happening. And I want to just put a tiny little bit more blue, like the darker blue up here in the sky. I think probably we're getting there. So maybe I'll just try and jump to those few things to try and clean it up a little bit. And then I'll put it aside for a minute. And then we'll just talk about some of the bio-based mediums and how you can use those. So I hope that answers. So don't worry, just if it doesn't work, just paint another one.
Yeah,
Just
she says, I want to do one just like yours. I love it. And I think of the white as glistening water.
yes, exactly.
And
And yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that's great. And that'll make more sense. So if I go back to that original reference photo, where we want to have the glistening water in here. So we are getting, this is like ripples and glistening little bits. So we want to add the detail in here to sort of really kind of contribute to that glistening that's happening. And then we want to add in some clouds. Okay, and was there another question?
Yeah, so Patricia says, I placed my acrylics on a ceramic plate. Is paper better?
Okay, so that's an interesting question too. So I'll just talk about there's no kind of better way. It's whatever works for you is fine. So this is a disposable palette. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more when we get into the mediums. So that is really great. I use this more so when I'm doing demos because I want to really work through a whole bunch of different things. So in my regular practice, I use, these are old styrofoam plates. I tend to like to keep colors together. So, and I just keep layering up the colors. And so I have blues and greens and pinks. So these are just old styrofoam, which we're not supposed to be using, but I haven't thrown it in the garbage, so that's good. But I also have a ceramic one. I don't have it handy to show you, but it's fun if you have a ceramic plate and your acrylic dries on it. You can put it in warm water, and you'll find that that acrylic can peel off. So you can also use those acrylic skins for fun things. This is another good thing to use as a palette. And this is an old baker's baker something. I'm not a baker, but it's a baker sheet or whatever. Again, if you put this, if you put hot, warm water in this, you'll find that all of this will peel right off. You can save it if you want and use it for things. Back in my Instagram, I'm going to say maybe a year ago, I actually showed peeling this off a baker's palette. And then another thing that is really great to use is plastic. This is just a plastic sleeve, that you put in a binder, and I've put a card in it. So this is also really great because I'm big on using every scrap of paint. So when I have something left over on a palette, including these palettes, which I'm going to show you. I take those and let me just see if I have it handy here. And I put them, and it seems crazy, but as an artist, we tend to keep everything. This is an old palette. I've taken it. I covered it in matte medium. I put the palette on top, left it to dry, and pull it. This was plastic. This was using one of those plastic sleeves. So I can go back to this and I can use this if I want as a background. Seems crazy, but I could use this as a background for this water scene that we're painting right now. Because I can create my horizon line. I can go over all of this with the layers of colors that we've put in here. And what you'll find is you're going to have these little bits of these colors will glimmer through, and it creates real interest and depth to the water. So I try and this whole echo side of things, we try and save everything. I can say not much in terms of my art practice goes in the garbage. So even if we were talking earlier about, paper towels, I'll use paper towels to dab my the color out of my brush because I don't want a lot to go down the drain. So I'll take a lot of the color out in the paper towels, and I save the paper towels because they're so beautiful and I think I might use them. Like I might cover a canvas with them and then cover it in gesso and then paint again. I think that would be really interesting. However, we digress. Okay, so let's just keep motoring along. Did that kind of answer that question?
Yeah, she also had a comment, just if you had anything to add to it. She said that it looks like the paint dries pretty quickly on the plate. When I grabbed some of the paint, it had like a film, so it took a lot of the paint.
Yes.
Is that be could that be because of the ceramic plate, or can that happen with any type of surface you're using as your palette?
Yeah, no, that can happen with any surface. It's not because of the plate. So the what I'm using on here has dried fairly quickly as well. So I don't have it handy to show you, but there are also, um, if you can use this palette paper, and there's palettes that you can get that have a you wet a cloth and put it underneath so it'll stay damp. That would certainly help. Um, when I'm working, sometimes I will just give it a little mist of water just on top like this, and that will sometimes help a little bit. Um, it's just the nature of the paint and the way acrylic does dry. So like my piece that I'm working on here, I sprayed it with a bit of water to give a little bit of flow through here, but it's pretty much dry now. So I'm going to go in. I hope that answers that question. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's dive in. We're going to quickly finish this because I want to just show you. I see we're moving along in terms of time, and I want you to be able to somewhat finish what you're working on, because if you're comfortable, we'll all do the show at the end. And then I just wanted you to understand and see a little bit about the mediums, because I'm all about fun and playing and texture and layering colors, and so I want you to see how we do that. So I'm going to get out a little bit of the transparent mixing white, because I want to um, just add in a little bit more blue, lighter blue in the sky. And I don't want it to be too dark. So in this case, I'm going to use the transparent mixing white. You don't have to, you can use the regular titanium white. I just recently started using this transparent mixing white. It's kind of interesting. I have almost solely used titanium white in terms of my practice um, and what I'm doing. So I want to just get quite a lighter color. I'm going to mix a little bit more of the matte medium. And then I'm just going to do that same thing with the clouds. You don't need to do this. I'm just showing you. Um, so I'm going to take the brush again. I think this is still a bit dark, what I've mixed here. I use the transparent mixing white, but I'm just going to dive in here to the regular white that I have up here. I want it to be quite light now, because I want it to be quite light. And I'm just going to I'm going to use the end of the brush this time. I'm just going to go in and just gently kind of brush across the canvas. And I'm just ever so gently. And I'm going to go back up here to where I have my titanium white. I'm just going to actually pull from that. I still have a bit of the blue on my brush, so you can see I'm getting quite a bit of blue in here, which is okay. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to put some of these highlights in here, what we had talked about in terms of this reflection that we're getting. So I'm going to use, again, sort of the end of the brush. And I want that, so you can see I'm getting a bit of blue in here. This is okay because we're going to go in later and we can put some clean white in. I'm going to grab a little bit more. And I'm just going to kind of rub little bits across the painting in some different spots, just gently. We're just putting a little bit more white through. And I'm going to do the same thing up here. You can see we have some interesting things happening where the colors blended together, the blue and the purple, as I was putting it on. So I want to try and keep that, but I also want to have some clouds. And the clouds, in order to create the perspective, you want to have some bigger ones up here and then some smaller ones and just some little dashes down here. So I'm going to do just some little dashes here. I'm going to pick up some more white. We're going to do some slightly bigger ones here. And I have a little bit of white here. I'm just going to kind of work that into a little bit more of a kind of cloud structure. You know what, if you want perfect clouds, you can source lots of courses for doing clouds. I like to just have kind of random sky. All about giving the illusion. You need to just really give the illusion of what you're creating, and then the brain takes over. So in this case, we've told the brain that this is a horizon line, and we've painted it in shades of blue, so the brain knows that this is a waterscape, even though I don't have actual ripples of water and that sort of thing. So I'm just going to clean up one area in here. I still have this horizontal line. So I'm just actually going to go in. That brush, and I'm going to just try and fill that in a little bit here. And I'm going to just create a little bit more variety through this dark blue here. And this is where you can just go in and add, you know, flecks of little bits of color here and there. I'm going to, one thing I didn't show you, how are we doing? Okay. We talked about using things around the house for painting. So we've used basically the palette knife and a brush. I just want to show you one other thing that you can use are old room keys, credit cards. I have a stack of them. Again, I don't tend to throw those out either. Part of me says one day I'm going to take a canvas and I'm going to put all the credit cards all over them, and then I'm going to gesso and paint something else. But I'm going to just show you here. I've just pulled some of this sort of medium blue paint that I have. I'm going to pull a little bit of the white and a little bit of the pink. And here, I'm just going to show you on here. So you can use this credit card, the end of the credit card. I'm just showing you on my palette knife, or on the palette. So you can take this credit card and you can go through here and create some interesting fine lines. You know, as you get towards the horizon line, you want the lines to be finer. So the credit card is actually good to do this. And you just get some little touches of color in here. And then you can use the end of the credit card and you can smear that out a little bit. So that's just showing you another option that you can use for painting. And then I'm kind of happy with the way my horizon line came in, but I'm just going to show you one more thing. Then we're going to dive into the mediums and the different things that you can do. So I'm taking my brush, and it depends on what sort of a waterscape you want to do. So if you have a true ocean scene, you're maybe going to want to leave it exactly like this, because you really don't see, you just see the difference between the sky and the water. So if you're doing kind of a lake, in this case, it was a lake, you can see there's a little bit of a horizon line, a dark line in terms of the trees. So what you can do is you can take your brush. Here, I'm putting a little bit more painting. You can go in here and just create a little bit of a horizon line. And what I should have done, there's a trick to doing this, which I will show you. I'm just going to wipe off this blob. And this is where, don't worry, I'm wiping it off, but we can go back in later and I can just put a little bit of, you know, lighter blue color in there, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. But again, if you want to use this recycled, you know, here's the little piece of paper that came from the box. So if you put this in here and give yourself a line, then you don't need to worry. You can go in here and you can do a rough kind of horizon line like this, and you haven't painted on the rest of your painting. And we can do the same thing over here. And that gives you just a little bit of an interesting horizon line if you want it, but up to you. Um, so I had a little bit of paint on there, but I'm not going to worry about it because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to get a little bit more of the titanium white and I am just going to run it through there. Okay, so I'm going to put this aside. I want to talk a little bit about the mediums. Um, and a little bit more about the bio-based. So I hope this has worked for you. We'll come back to this in a few minutes. So the other fun things as part of the bio group of products. So you have 40 colors that you can choose from, and from those you can make a gazillion colors. As I talked about the mixing, just play. We've talked about the the bio-based matte medium. There's also a bio-based matte and gloss gel. So I'm just going to show you a couple of things that I have done with that, and then I'll show you what I do with canvases. Let me just see here. The okay. So the gel, you can use the heavy gel to create interesting textures on the canvas. So here, this is a little bit more of a basic way to look at it. So this is the bio-based gloss gel, and I think you can see there's a lot of texture happening there. And I've mixed it with the phthalo blue. Here I've used something to scrape through it. It gives a little bit of a texture. So I'm going to just get out some of that so that you can see. I'm just going to put it right on top of some of my dried color here. So we're going to use the matte gel, and you're going to use matte or gloss, depending on kind of what you like the looks of. Again, matte versus gloss. Some people like to have glossy paintings. Some people like to have matte paintings. I kind of like to have a mixture of different things in the painting. Again, creates some variety. So let me just move this over a little bit so that you can see. So this is quite a thick gel. So again, this can create some interest. So if we go back to our water-based painting, if you mix a matte gel with some of your colors, and again, put that into the painting, it creates some interest based on the textural and the surface. So you have interest happening based on your mark size, the type of mark, the color, the mix of colors, and then you can also have some interest based on the texture in the painting. And I'll show you some other ideas in terms of texture too. So I'm just going to I want to have something that's a little bit more pinky purple. So I've taken this gel and I've mixed the color in with it. And so all of a sudden we just have something that's a little bit thicker and will remain thick on the painting. And it's a better way to, instead of using a lot of paint, you're using a medium, applying a little bit of paint and creating something that gives you volume. So I'm just going to kind of work this in a little bit. It's quite a deep color, so I'm actually going to work it into the bottom of the painting here a little bit more. I'm using a little bit of the side of the brush or side of the palette knife.
Well, Kareen, we have another question from Joyce.
Yeah.
She's asking if I wanted to add a beach to a waterscape, would I do a third of each, beach, water, and sky?
Um, yeah, and so that's where it becomes, you have to look at some photos to really see, because then, this is a very simple waterscape that we've done here. A lot with the beach, you probably would not want to do third, 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 because then it becomes a little bit too regular. So you might want to do just a little bit of a narrow strip at the bottom in terms of beach, and then you're going to use the white to create some waves if you want to do that. The other thing is to look at shifting the angle a bit. And I don't think I have, oh, hold on, I might have one more reference that has, no, I don't, sorry. If you look at, if you have photos of the beach, you could actually have an angle right through your painting like this, where you could have your beach in here and then your water. So this is a very simplistic where everything is completely horizontal. But then you're going to look at how you want to set that up to give a little bit more interest and variety so it's not so uniform. That help there? Anything else? Any other questions as we're going?
I do have a couple that I wrote down
Yeah.
that are about the materials. And maybe
Yes.
you'll get into it a little bit more, but
Yep.
so one that I had was I was just curious because they're bio-based and it's just a new line of colors for Liquitex. Are there colors that still use the chemicals like cadmium, or is this all free of those types of materials in the paints as well as being the bio-based?
So basically, we have cadmium-free paints. Wherever possible, Liquitex has taken the any ingredient that would be here. I'll turn the camera around for a moment. Um, the any sorry, I'm getting paint all over everything here. Anything that they could change to an organic type of material, such as something based on, corn or algae, or they have done that. So they cannot change it 100% organic, just the nature of the acrylic polymer. But every color is a little bit different as well. So if there are pigments that can be changed, they will change the pigment to organic as well. So it depends on the color and depends on the product. So that's why I'm just going to point out, and I probably have an example here. Oh, I don't have the overhead camera, but so for example, the bio-based gloss gel, if you look at the percentage here, is 40% bio-based. I'm just pulling just random something here. The medium magenta is 49% bio-based. So what they do, they have testing that they're able to look at the amount of carbon type product that's in the paint, so that they come up with that percentage. So meaning that if it's not carbon based, then it's organic, more easily renewable items.
Okay, cool. And then I was just curious about the use of the pots for the container as opposed to the tubes that have been most common with the other paints.
Yes, that's great. Thank you. My list of things that I have to make sure that I go through, so I better double check that list. So one of the things, the pots themselves are all recycled materials. Everything is in a pot versus a tube in the bio-based. And the reason for that is so that they can be easily, you can use every little bit of material, then they can be cleaned out and you can reuse them. So you could reuse them in your studio, let's say to hold paper clips, or you could reuse them if you're doing your own color mixing. So say you have the smaller size pots available, and you've made up this beautiful color of, turquoise or, russet or whatever, and you want to do your own mixes, you could use your containers to do that as well. So it's trying to be able to utilize to recycle as best as possible. And they can also be recycled. So if you're not going to reuse them, then they can just be recycled again.
Great.
All right.
We do actually have another question from
Okay.
Todd. If I want to use the bio-based on wood, is there anything I need to consider Um, is it okay to use a varnish after the paint has dried?
Yeah, so it would be basically the same parameters that you would follow with an acrylic based paint. So if you are gessoing your wood to start, you're going to gesso the wood. Then you're going to use the acrylic as you normally would. If you normally varnish, then you're going to varnish as you normally would. So there's really no difference in terms of that. And the idea is that it can be easily worked into your practice. And you don't have to really change what you're doing. It becomes a very easy product just to change over. When you're finished your phthalo blue, you can move to the phthalo blue bio based and go from there. All right.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So the mediums, how are we for time? Okay, so just a few more minutes, right?
Yeah, we
Um,
have 10 minutes left, and if we just can squeeze like 1 minute in there for any show and tell, we might have, but
yeah, okay. All right.
we're a
So
little
I'm
flexible.
Okay, so I'm just going to expand a little bit more on these mediums, and I'll just show you a little bit about what I do for my practice. So if I was doing a waterscape like this, I'm going to just flip back to the overhead camera. Um, okay. Um, so I'm going to show you a couple of different things. So I apply a lot of papers and mediums. So this is one of the recycled canvases. This was a 12 by 12, I think. And I apply papers and mediums. In this case, it's papers, and I'll show you. I collect whenever anything comes into my house that has tissue paper in it. So this happens to be a Banana Republic, beautiful tissue paper that has a wonderful pattern on it. Um, Plain white tissue paper that comes in shoes, clothing, anything. I keep these papers and I use those in my backgrounds. Um, the I'm going to show you some. So basically, I use the matte medium. So you can use the biomat medium, and I'll show you quickly how I do this in case you're interested. Let me get one where I have just a little bit of texture on it. So here's one where I've applied some tissue. This was using a gloss medium. I think this side has matte medium, and then this actually has some gesso on it. But I'll just show you quickly because it's interesting the way the color here, let me digress to this for a moment. So this is something that has the texture on it, and then I have applied some color. Now this is all random, not the way we were doing in terms of the horizontal, but you get some extra dimension here as well where this paper shows through. So you'll find as you layer on the color where the paper is, the underlayers show through. So it's, again, another interesting way to use up materials in your house and just kind of have a fun experimental way to paint. So I'm just going to show you quickly. I've just used the regular bio here. I'm going to use this for a moment so that you can see the two gel mediums, or sorry, the matte mediums. So this is the regular matte medium that I just poured out. And I'm going to show you the bio matte medium. I'm just cleaning off my palette knife here. It's identical consistency. So if you use matte medium, you can feel comfortable to move into the bio matte medium if you choose to do that, and that's something that you want to be part of your practice. Then you can feel comfortable. You can do the same thing with that. So basically, when I apply a paper to something, I'll take the matte medium, I'll put it on I have some paint coming off my palette knife, but that's okay because that creates more interest. So I'll cover the surface, I'll take the paper, I'll spread it out so it gets some random textures on it, and then I let that dry. and I'll cover it with gesso. So the first thing that you saw had gesso on it. And then I start applying the layers of color. So again, it's added dimension and added interest. So in addition to the paper, so you can use the heavier gel mediums. So I'm going to take some of the matte gel. So again, thicker, you can see it doesn't move around in the container. So you can apply this to the surface, and it's going on white. It will dry clear, or you can put the color in it as I showed you earlier. Then you can take things and you can put interesting textures in this. So this happens to be an old thing from a berry container. And can you see, I just created some random textures. And when that dries, then you end up with, I'm going to see if I can show you again the first one. Okay. Gives you some very interesting textures that you can then paint on. So sorry, I can't now find the one that I wanted to show you again, which had the little grasses and stuff. But anyways, it's all about experimentation. So I can't stress enough, just have fun and experiment, and just enjoy the process. So, okay, we've talked the bio, we've talked the matte medium, the gloss medium, the gels. Oh, one more thing that I want to show you, what you can do. So if you have your disposable palette, you can take what's left of this paint, and as I had mentioned earlier, you can take this and you can put it onto a paper. And I'll use this for example. So I'm going to show you how I do that, but let me show you something quickly. I'm just watching the time here. So this is a palette that I did a little while ago. So basically, I covered the paper with matte medium and then let it dry completely. And you can pull off the palette. It has to be dried completely, otherwise it will not work. Because of the waxy nature of the palette, and I've ripped it a little bit on the side, but you can see, you can pull off, and all of the paint that I had on the palette has transferred to the paper. So it's kind of, again, a fun experimental way to get some interesting things on paper. You can then take these papers, you can cut them apart, you can use them for collage. If you want to use just specific areas from your palette, so you could cut this out, and what you're going to do, and I'll do that quickly, and then I think that will cover pretty much everything we're doing, or we're going to do today, unless anybody has any other questions, holler. So I am going to just put a little bit of matte medium on this paper, and you can cut out or just rip it out if you like. So I'm going to take this little bit that was left here on my palette, and I'm going to put it right here. So I'm just going to lay that down on the paper. And I can't show you today, but when it's dry, I will be able to just pull that up, and it should leave the majority of the paint there. So the same thing can be done if you're painting on, as I mentioned earlier, like a plastic palette. Okay, so actually, if I have a couple minutes or 1 minute, I'm just going to put a little bit more white paint on this, the details, so that you can see the little spot on the horizon, and then we're good. So I'm just going to take my palette knife. I'm just going to accentuate again this little area here where I want to have some extra glistening sun happening, and put a little bit, I can put a little bit more in the sky here for the clouds.
So Anna's asking for when you were peeling some of your paint off of your palette, can you build layers using that technique?
Yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. Again, it's experimentation. Um, so, you have to make sure that you're securing kind of your layers as you go. But this had one layer that I'd done previously, a second layer. But you have to look at it too. It's, some areas are not 100% secure, so you need to make sure you might want to put some more matte medium in there and to anchor it, but yeah, so it gives an interesting effect. Okay, so just looking at, we have some harsh lines going here. Okay, so I think we've kind of covered everything. Are we okay for time there? Are we going to do a quick little share?
Yeah, so, oh, we already got Sharon sharing. Okay, so if everyone's ready, if you want to turn your cameras on and switch to gallery view, so you can see everyone's work, please do so.
Fantastic.
Yeah, awesome. I'm
Love
gonna
it.
start maybe switching the spotlight so everyone can see some of them.
Sharon, I love the waves. Okay, I can't see everybody, so I'll have to kind of scroll through here. Oh, I see some. Oh, wow, cool. I see what look like some birds in the sky. Awesome. Wow. So fun. And it looks like somebody's painting on a
Very
tondo.
cool.
Cool.
I love your
Fantastic.
oval
Oh,
canvas, Patricia. It's cool.
yeah, that was so cool. Fun. Jean, I love the birds and the misty horizon. Awesome.
Very
Don, I
cool.
love the horizon line. It's great, and your clouds are awesome.
Yeah. While we're
What? Oh,
sharing, if anyone has any extra questions, I actually have one on the canvas just because I'm curious as well.
yeah.
Um, I was just wondering if there are any major differences to consider between traditional canvas and the recycled canvas as far as like texture or how it reacts to the paint versus traditional canvas.
So I would say from using it, it is very much the same as traditional canvas. Because, I tend to, I will read gesso often. I didn't today. I didn't think it really needed it, but the texture to me is pretty much the same. And I think it's great. Yeah. Yeah. Highly recommend it. One thing I didn't actually mention, so I talked about the recycled fabric, and I think it's important to know, and it all goes back to this sort of B Corp, the better for all, which is what that is kind of all about, of call art. So one thing about the wood that's used in that canvas as well, you may be interested to know that they're using a type of wood that is it's classified by the Forest Stewardship Commission. I'm just trying to tell you the correct stuff. And it's wood that is actually quicker growing wood. So they would never use something that would be like, old, old wood. You know what I mean? So yeah, so it's every aspect of what they do, they look at to try and ensure that there is some kind of a sustainable and really environmental and great aspect around it. So yeah, great company, great product. I'm really excited to be part of this and love these new bio-based. They're really fun.
Great. Nice to have a new alternative to the standard acrylic paint. So I'm excited. And thanks everyone for coming. Looks like no more questions. So we're looking at the end here. Thanks, Kareen, for joining us today. It was a really
Thank
great
you.
workshop for learning some landscape abstract techniques with the new heavy acrylics. We have those on sale now. Um, and check them out on our website or in store as well as the recycled canvas. Thanks everyone for coming. Hope to see you on the next one. Hope you guys
Thank
have a
you.
great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.